how many times do you have a prospect that says, hey, can you give me a cheaper price? And then you start giving them a cheaper price, and then they still don't end up buying. If that's you, type in me in the chat. So if you ever have a prospect, have you ever had a prospect, let's just say this, you ever have a prospect that said, hey, can you give me a cheaper price? And then you start giving them a cheaper price and they still don't buy, or you do give them a cheaper price and they end up buying, but your commissions go down because you sold it for much cheaper. Or let's say that your boss gets upset at you because, well, they're not as profitable because you're selling everything for a lot cheaper. Okay, so if that's you, I want you to type me in the chat, because what I'm going to show you today is first how to find out what's behind them asking that question. Number two, are they really, let's say if they said a competitor's doing it for cheaper, have they really looked at that, or are they just trying to make that up for you to come down? And number three, how do you respond where you don't trigger sales resistance, but at the same time you don't have to lower your prices? Okay, so type in me if that's something you want to learn today over the next 10, 15, 20 minutes. Type in me if that's you. The first thing you need to do is you actually need to find out what's behind them asking for a cheaper price, okay? Because here's what happens, right? The prospect says, hey, can you give it to me for a cheaper price? And what do? You immediately go and you start negotiating down for a cheaper price, or you just say, well, why do you need a cheaper price? Okay, you need to clarify and find out what that actually means, all right? So what you want to do is you want to start to answer that question. You don't want to ignore it. You want to start to answer the question and then pivot right in the middle of that question. And I'm going to show you how to what we call loop, and you're going to ask a clarifying question. So you're going to start to ask the question, okay? And then you're going to loop back around and ask what's called an NEPQ clarifying question. So if they say, hey, can you give me a cheaper price? Because right now you don't know why they're asking. Did a competitor offer it for cheaper? Did maybe the company they're using now, is their price cheaper than what you're offering it for? Do they need it cheaper because they have a budget problem? And there's so many different reasons why they're asking you this question. Or they could just be trying to negotiate with you. How many times have you been really, really interested in what a salesperson was offering? You really wanted to buy it, and then you made up a story to them like, hey, can I get a cheaper price because I can find it cheaper somewhere else? But then you never really looked for it anywhere else. You just made that up. You're guilty, I know, right? Okay, I want to show you to do this, all right? So you're going to start to answer, and you say, well, it depends. Now, you must have asked me that for a reason, though. So notice I start to answer it, okay? You don't want to just say, you must have asked me that for a reason. Or you don't want to say, well, why did you ask? Well, I just want to know, can you give me a cheaper price? So you want to start off with answering it, and then you're going to transition and ask a clarifying question. You're looping back around. Okay, see what I'm doing there? Well, it depends. Now, you must have asked me that for a reason. See how I did that? I start to answer it. Now, I'm neutral here. I'm not saying yes, and I'm not saying no. You see the difference there? Well, it depends. Now, you must have asked me that for a reason, though. Or I could simply say this. I could say, well, it depends. Now, you must have asked me for a reason, though. Like, what's going on? Okay? See that concern tone. I can also add this in at the end if I want to. Now, it's important you use a concern tone here. Okay, remember, write this down. If you're one of our clients, you're already starting to master your tonality with a curious tone compared to a confused tone, compared to a challenging tone, compared to a concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy, compared to a playful tone. Okay, we teach all the subcategories of those tones in our training programs for clients, okay? But you have to use a concerned tone here, a tone that shows empathy. Well, I mean, it depends. Now, you must have asked me that for a reason. What's going on? But what if I did it like this? Well, I mean, it depends. You must be asking me that for a reason. Like, what's going on, man? See, you might get a prospect that gets defensive from that tone. Okay, so I want to ask like a concerned tone here, and I want to lower my voice. Now, type in me if you've ever watched, Wolf on Wall Street with Leonardo DiCaprio. Type in me if you've ever watched that movie before. There's a reason why I'm asking you if you've watched it, okay? Now, hey, there's a lot of vulgar cuss words in it. That might be your thing. It might not be your thing. I'm not talking about the story behind it. I'm talking about I want you to watch Leonardo DiCaprio's tonality when he's talking to prospects on the phone. And there's a scene in there where he leans in. I just did a reel about it. He leans in and he said, John, something important just came across my desk. And notice his voice went down. Now, if you want to master the concern tone, you've got to be able to lean down because it softens your voice, okay? If you don't lean down, it's very hard for you to have a concern tone if you're standing up straight or if you're sitting in a chair straight. So anytime you want to use a concern tone, you lean in like this, and it causes your vocal cords to contract a little bit and your tone will soften. Try leaning like this and yelling. It's really harder to do, okay? So that is a good way to like adjust your tone. Does that make sense what we're doing there? Okay. Now, let's say the prospect comes back. Now, this first example I'm showing you is strictly generic, and then I picked out like 5 or 6 different industry-specific examples, and I'm going to show you those industry-specific examples so you can write it out for what you sell, okay? Now, prospect. Well, yeah, the reason why I'm asking you is XYZ company, they offered the same thing for like 10% less. Let's say that's what they said. Yeah, we talked with the XYZ company and they said it would be 10% less for the same service or the same product or whatever, okay? Now, the first thing that you need to do is you need to find out specifically what they were offered. So if that's what the prospect says, if that's why they said they want a cheaper price, you need to find out, was it the same thing they were offered? Because it could have been, let's say if you sold windows, right? Home improvement, that's a huge industry we're training. And let's say they come back and say, well, can you give me these windows for cheaper? And you want to find out what type of windows do they offer? And they come back with a different window type that you know is not going to last very long, and they're going to end up replacing it in half the time of your windows. They're being offered something different, not the same thing for the same price. So you always have to specify that. Oh, what specifically did they offer you? So you always want to find that out if that's why they asked for a cheaper price, okay? You always want to find out, oh, what specifically did they ask you? What if the prospect says, well, I'm not really sure. I thought it was the same. Well, if you really thought about it, what did they offer you? So anytime, I'll just give you a little thing here. Anytime a prospect, you ask a question, the prospect says, I'm not sure, just lean in and do like this. Put your hand on your chest and say, well, if you really thought about it. And you'll notice their head will go like this or like this, and they'll start thinking about it. It's just a way to basically to train their brain to think about the question you're asking. You're kind of causing their brain to think about it, okay? Now, like I said here, how many times have you asked a salesperson that you were really interested in buying something from, and you asked them to get a cheaper price, and they said why, and you said that XYZ competitor offered you something for cheaper, and you never even talked to that company. You didn't even talk to any of their competitors. You just made it up. You just made it up, okay? Don't do that, all right? So you can't fall for that trap because a lot of your prospects are doing the same thing to you, okay? So you got to find out if they really did talk to that company or not, okay? So what you do, let's say if they're like, I talked with XYZ company. Yeah, XYZ. I mean, they're fairly decent. I mean, it really just depends on like the result you're looking for. I mean, is the price the most important thing to you, like the cheapest thing, or getting XYZ result? Okay, now that's a generic frame that I just showed you, okay? So write this down. This is called an NEPQ comparative frame. Write this down. If you're on IG or if you're on the IG phone here, if you're on my desktop in the Facebook group Sales Revolution, write down NEPQ comparative frame. Now, if you're in our Advanced Inner Circle program, which I know a lot of you are here on both channels, we teach you all those frames for all those different industries, so you already know all these, okay? But if you're not a client yet, which what the hell are you doing not being a client? You don't want to sell more. Write down NEPQ comparative frame. I'm always giving you guys a hard time, okay? All right, so I can say, so is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or getting XYZ result? See, I even want to put here cheapest, because what does that sound like? So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or actually getting XYZ result? Okay? Now, what did my facial expression just communicate here? So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or getting XYZ result? When I say cheapest price, I want to make that sound what? Like it's bad, like it's a negative thing. It's not good to buy the thing just because it's the cheapest, right? See how because what if I did it this way? So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or getting XYZ result? Well, it's probably a little bit of both. That's what you're going to get. So write this down. Your facial expressions are the remote control to your tone. Your facial expressions are the remote control to your tone. Are you with me on that? Okay? Try having a confused tone with a straight face. You can't do that. It's one of the first things they actually train you in acting school is how to use your facial expressions to elicit different emotional drivers in the viewer, in the audience's brain to keep them watching the show. Is that something you want to learn as a salesperson? Probably if you want to sell a lot more than you are now. I don't care if you're already the top person in your company, you want to do double or triple, you have to learn your tonality and your body language. You have to learn advanced body language and tonality skills. Even if you're on the phone, you have to be able to use these same facial expressions even if they can't see you, because it affects your what? It affects your voice, your tone. Okay? Very, very important. So if you're just sitting there in a chair the whole time, so is price the most important thing to you, or getting XYZ result? They're both important. Now watch it. So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or actually getting XYZ result? So you notice at the end, XYZ result sounds positive. See, I shifted my tone. Watch again. Some of you are not getting this. I love you. So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or getting XYZ result? Notice how my tone shifts to more of a positive, like this is a really good thing when I go over XYZ result, but it's a negative thing when it's cheapest price. See how I'm controlling different emotions by changing my tone and my facial expressions on that comparative frame. Is that making sense to you? Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about marketing. Okay, I'm going to give you like 6 or 7 different industries. Okay. Type in me if you sell for marketing agencies. This is a big industry we train in as well. Now, I can assure you, we already trained your industry. How many industries are there in the world? According to Forbes magazine, just came out a couple weeks ago, there's 163 industries. Crazy. Now, there are subcategories of each one. So let's say if you sold home improvement, like we were just saying a minute ago, there's windows, doors, cabinets, could be bathroom remodels. We train a lot of the Rebath franchises now. Could be sidings or awnings. Could be just everything that has to do with it. Could be garages. One of my really good friends, Tommy Mello, is the CEO of A1 Garages. Okay, about to become a client as well. Okay. All right. Now, same thing. So is now let's change it here. Let's put the cheapest. See, we always get better as time goes. So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or putting in the right marketing strategy to be able to scale to $12 million a month? So see what I did. So here, let's say that their problem was they didn't have the right marketing strategy, okay? And the consequence of that was they're not able to scale to, and I repeat back what they said they wanted. Okay, so let's say this company's at $9 million a month, and they said they need a better marketing and branding strategy to go to $12 million a month in the next 2 years. I'm just making that up. I'm basically taking what the prospect said, and I'm putting that in the comparative frame. Do you see what I'm doing? So is the cheapest price the most important thing to your CEO, or putting in the right marketing strategy so you're able to scale to $12 million a month? See what I did there, okay? All right, now let me show you some other examples, all right? Now, let's say, because a lot of times they'll come back, well, no, I mean, we definitely want to get to $12 million a month, or if that's what they said. So oh, no, the result's important to me. So whatever you said, no, the result's important to you. Yeah, because, I mean, we can give you a really cheap price. I'm just concerned for you because how will we be able to dedicate the resources necessary to help you scale to $12 million a month in revenue without having the funding to be able to help you do that? Notice I tied in a how-to question, okay? Anybody ever read my good friend Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference? Good friends with Chris now, spoke at a lot of events with him, even texted him the other day helping him find a new sales manager. So if you're a sales manager looking for a good place to work, I can connect you with my good friend Chris Voss. But he teaches you in his trainings, not his book is, it's just a book, right? But if he teaches you in his trainings how to ask a lot of how-to questions to get the prospect to think through, like, oh, how could I do that? Okay? Yeah, because, I mean, we can give you a really cheap price. I'm just concerned because how are we be able to dedicate the resources necessary to help you scale to $12 million a month without the funding to be able to do that? Okay? So then I could go down here. So is the 10% off the most important thing to you, or being able to scale to 12 million? See how I'm reframing. Now, that is an example of what we call reframing, okay? You are reframing the prospect's way of thinking from over here where they are at to where you want them to be. That's an example of reframing. Because a lot of you get on there with your prospects, you talk to them on the phone, in person, on Zoom, it doesn't matter, and you're like, oh, well, they weren't a qualified lead because when I asked them what they were looking for something different. Oh, well, that's your problem, because all you have to do is reframe their way of thinking from what they thought they needed to what they really need. You just haven't learned reframing techniques. So if you want to learn advanced reframing techniques for your industry, message me directly in the chats if you're on IG or Facebook group, and we'll reach out to you. Okay? So message me directly if you want to learn advanced reframing techniques to reframe your prospect's way of thinking. That's like a salesperson getting on with one of our account managers, and they're saying, well, if I could have better leads, I'd sell more. So that salesperson's way of thinking is, I'm not selling much because the leads suck. But we know most of the time it's the sales skills are lacking, not necessarily the leads. So we have to reframe their way of thinking over to their sales skills and ability, what they can control, because they can't control leads. That's just an example of reframing. Okay? All right, let's keep going on another couple here. All right, so let's give you this example. Let's say you sell home improvement. Type in me if you sell home improvement. All right? Let's say if you sell windows. I can do the same thing. So let's do this right here. Okay, let's change this here. Is the cheapest. Okay? Always improving. So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or putting in the XYZ windows so it stops the cold draft from coming in at night so you're sleeping better? So let's say that their problem was, okay, their windows, the cold draft was coming in because they have old windows, and in the winter they have a hard time sleeping every night. See, what I'm doing, I'm just plugging that into the frame, okay? You don't want to use a generic frame. You actually want to use what they say. So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or being able to stop the cold draft from coming in your room at night so you're able to sleep better? See how I'm reframing their way of thinking back into what? Results-based thinking over price or cost-based thinking. Do you see the difference on that? Okay? All right, now, yeah, here's the thing here too. Yeah, because, I mean, we could put in like the cheapest window that company offered you. Just how would it be able to stop the cold air from coming in at night if we put in a window that doesn't really do that? Okay, see, same thing I could do. I could reframe that. Okay, let's go to a completely different industry. Okay, let's say if you sold let's say if you sold employee benefits, B2B. Type in me if you're in B2B sales. Okay, and let's say that their problem was the benefits package they offer to employees is not that good, so a lot of their top executives are leaving their company to work for their competition who offers better benefits. Same thing. So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or putting in the right benefits package so your top executives stop leaving the company? See, here I can put in not the end, well, the end benefit is stopping that from happening. I can put in the consequence of that happening if they don't change. I can do that either or. Okay? Let's go to another example. I could show all these for you. Okay? Yeah, because we could give you a cheaper plan, but how would you be able to help retain your top employees with a cheap plan that most of them don't really like? See, it's the how-to question. So I'm reframing their way of thinking from cost or price-based thinking to what? Results-based thinking. Okay? So cost or price-based thinking to results-based thinking. All right? All right, let's keep going. David Wood, you're very kind. David Wood, what are you up to now? David Wood is a very, David, you owned a really successful network marketing company. I think you sold that or something. But you're a top G, dude. Congratulations. I went to one of your events a long time ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago. It's crazy. That was my third industry I sold in, was network marketing. Different company, but I have a lot of respect for you. Good job. Okay, let's say that you sell fitness. Let's say you're a personal trainer, okay? Or you sell some type of weight loss program. You're helping people lose weight, build muscle, build tone. You know, I just hired a personal trainer about 2.5 weeks ago because I had freaking 3 surgeries on the same area of my leg over the last 4 months. Like, I couldn't even go to the gym for almost 4 months. It was crazy. I couldn't even hardly function. I was like barely limping into the office. So now I'm back in the gym, starting to get my muscles back. So, you know, fitness, weight loss, okay? Now, here, same thing. We're going to put the cheapest. So is the cheapest. So for your industry, write down. Let's say if you're David Wood and you're network marketing, so is the cheapest price the most important thing to you? Or actually having somebody to train you to actually really be successful in your own business? Just a different frame. So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you? Or actually starting your own business where you can make a lot more money? Okay? Whatever the end result is of what you sell. It doesn't matter the industry, it's all the frames, all right? I want to make sure everybody understands. When you are talking with prospects or anybody in life, you are either framing them or they are framing you. Everything is frames. And I want you to think about this, for example. You know, my good friend Rene Rodriguez, he's a public speaker, really good speaker. Check him out sometime. He's an expert on body language, okay? And Rene gave an example in one of his books the other day. I was listening to the audiobook, and he talks about when you're asked questions in an interview, okay? So, dude wholesales real estate and thinks that counts. I don't know are you guys fighting in here? Is everybody fighting on IG? Or you guys need some Snicker bars over there? What's going on? I love you guys. So everything that you do is a frame, okay? So let's say that you're in an interview for an important job, and the interviewer says, hey, what's the biggest thing you felt like you achieved in your younger years? And you say, oh, that's easy. I got straight A's my senior year in high school. Well, you think that's good. The problem is now the person interviewing you, they have to frame what that means. Now, let's say that the person interviewing you got straight A's their entire history of being in school. That person might think, oh, so she's kind of a procrastinator who waited her senior year to get straight A's because she was worried she wouldn't get into a good school. See, you're letting them frame you, interpret your frame. But if I tell a story around that frame, such as this, okay? Well, actually, my most important moment is when I got straight A's in high school. The reason that is because I grew up in a home in a very impoverished neighborhood in downtown Chicago. And the people that I was around all the time, they would always say that you can't do something. Like, we're never going to be able to leave this part of town. And my parents would always be negative. Like, they were always victims of, you know, the government, or, you know, victims of their job. And people would always put me down and tell me I would never amount to anything, that I wasn't smart enough. And I always believed that my entire life. And then one time I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, my junior year in high school, with a friend. And he taught me X and Y and Z, and I started having this epiphany that I could accomplish anything I wanted to in my life. I looked at Oprah and other people, and I could do anything. And then that year, I put in the work. I decided I was going to make a difference. And my senior year, I went from an average student to a straight A student, and I did that the rest of my career in college. That's why I'm the most proud of getting A's my senior year. See, now you control the frame. And now the interview has to think what? They have to think what you just said in your story. That is what I mean by an example of controlling the frame, okay? So your prospects are either framing you by saying things like, can you give me a cheaper price? And you cave in it, so they're framing you, or you are framing them. Now, framing does not mean it's something bad, okay? Selling is not something you do to people. Selling is something you do for people to solve their problems and get them where they want to be. It's a different way of thinking, okay? So let's say weight loss. So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or losing the 97 pounds so you're able to walk your daughter down the aisle? So I'm just going to repeat back whatever they said they wanted. So let's say this guy, this dad, was concerned that if he didn't lose the 95 pounds, as he got older, he might have a heart attack and might not be able to walk his daughter down the aisle. I just plugged that in, whatever they said. So is the cheapest price the most important thing to you, or losing the 95 pounds so you're able to walk your daughter down the aisle? Notice how I end that in a concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy. See what I'm doing there? That's a write it down, NEPQ comparative frame. All right? All right, perfect. Let's keep going here. All right. Let's see. Okay, here. So same thing. Now I'm going to reframe them. Okay. Oh no, I definitely want to walk my daughter out of the aisle for sure. Well, because we could put you on like one of those basic cheap plans. I guess I'm concerned because how will we be able to help you lose the 95 pounds so your kids are able to see you as they grow up in life if we don't have you on the right plan that would actually be able to help you do that? See, it's the how-to question. You let them come up with that. They're like, there's no way I could. So what plan do you think is going to put you in the best position to ensure that you're here when your daughter gets married in the next few years and you prevent the heart attack? And they're obviously, no, the cheapest plan is going to, they're not going to say the cheapest plan is going to put in the best position. They're going to say, oh, the better plan. Well, what do you feel like we should do to put you in the best position to make sure that you're here when your daughter wants you to be here for, or whatever, okay? That's just an example of an NEPQ reframe. Write that down, NEPQ reframe. We've got people talking about false idols here in the chat. Hey, can I make a suggestion? If you're here to learn skills to sell more, so you can make more sales, and you can help your prospects solve problems, get what they want, then stay on here. If you're here to start throwing around slang, what are you doing? You don't have to be on these lives, okay? So just take it seriously if you want to sell more, right? Don't talk bad about other people here. Let's all be cool to each other, right? This life is too short to be angry. What you angry about? Be nice, all right? Give that person a Snickers bar. Somebody's saying Matt. Who's the Matt? Matt, do you need a Snickers bar? Matt, somebody give Matt a Snickers bar. Who's got the Snickers bar? All right, perfect. All right. Now, okay, that's all I've got for you today. Love you guys. Now, the question is, how will you sell? Now, type in me if you want to sell more than you earn. That's such an obvious question. That's kind of a dumb question, Jeremy. Who in here actually wants to learn skills that's going to help you sell more? Type in me if that's you. It doesn't have to be you. Type in me if you want to learn skills that helps you sell more, because what I just showed you up on that vibe board, that is pretty basic compared to what our clients learn day in and day out, okay? So type in me if you feel that if I and my team trained you for the next 12 months, you would sell more than you are now. Feel like you'd sell less, or do you feel like you would sell more if myself and my team trained you for the next 12 months? Would you sell less, or would you sell more? Gonna go out on a limb and probably say that you'd probably sell more. Typically, we never have salespeople or companies come to us and say, hey Jeremy, I want to learn skills to sell less. They always say they want to what? Learn skills to sell more, all right? So if that's you, because I believe you're a high-level salesperson, you're a sales pro, right? You know that for you to get into the top 1% in your industry, and even if you're in the top 1%, to stay there, or maybe even get into the top 0.01% of your industry, what are you going to have to do? Well, as my good friend Bradley always says, is training something you did, or is training something you do? Well, it's something you do on a daily basis if you want to continually sell more to make more money. Salespeople that it's something they did, they're the ones that what? Stay average and go below average, okay? Salespeople that are the best, they always continually train. So if you want continued training, if you want to learn techniques that work with human behavior, where your prospects do all the work instead of you doing all the work, where your prospects sell themselves rather than you trying to hustle and chase after them, where your prospects overcome their own concerns rather than you trying to overcome their concerns, and where your prospects pull you in rather than you trying to push and pressure, because you know that doesn't work that well. You don't even like it when salespeople do that to you. So why would your prospects like you to do it to them? So if that's you, message me directly right now. If you're on IG, message me directly. If you're in the Facebook group Sales Revolution, message me directly. And either myself or someone on my team, because there'll be a couple hundred of you that probably will message us, we'll get back to you sometime today with maybe some different training options if you want to acquire those skills. All right, we love you. I got to get out of here. I got a hard stop. Thanks, everybody.